It's later in the book. And ignore other characters' names. It's not important to you. It's hardly important to me. Behind the glass of his spectacles, his bright eyes blinked back a film of moisture that could have been taken for the beginning of tears. His bottom lip quivered, but then he composed himself. I was growing quite fond of the old bugger. He winked at the girls. What did you think of the most recent one? He jerked his thumb in Marie's direction, took every ounce of concentration to keep reading the words on her skin and not give in to distraction. She is quite beautiful, really. Stunning. And that accent. A French woman would make the shopping list sound sultry. Must be all that red wine and cigarettes. In the bare light, he looked even more recognizable. Tall and thin as a scarecrow, swept-back thatch of silver hair, the wire-rimmed glasses, and a face etched with wrinkles earned from 10,000 jetons and night after night of staring down at a blank page. The famous French playwright. You remind me of someone. Your father. No, yes, him too, but someone else. I'm glad it was somebody else. I was getting concerned. What was the name of that French fellow who wrote that play, Waiting for Godot? He patted at the pockets of his robe. Reaching in with 2 fingers, he pulled out the wrinkled balloon and considered it as though he had no memory of the object. A thought tickled his lips. Do you have a cigarette? I don't smoke. Now would be an odd time to start then. Still, it is a very famous play about nothing. Nothing? Everything is about something. Even this? Especially this. Even silence has meaning and countless interpretations. Yes, I said, agreeing simply to be sociable. It's about 2 tramps who are waiting for Godot to return. A French play? Sounds like a film I saw once with the poker-faced actor Buster Keaton. He had gotten into a number of jams and was awaiting the return of his partner to straighten things out. Man's name was Godot, but he never returns. Or perhaps it wasn't Keaton at all, but Laurel and Hardy. No! Waiting for Godot is a kind of existential comedy. But Laurel and Hardy would make a good Vladimir and Estragon, don't you think? 2 tramps, Laurel and Hardy were always 2 tramps. I am beginning to feel like we're 2 tramps, waiting for some order out of this chaos. No, I'm sure it was Keaton. He was much admired by your playwright. He even used Keaton in a film without words, not a silent film. But nothing to be said. You even sound like him, I said. You're a Frenchman? Perhaps he only wrote in French. Forced himself to think harder. That's it, I said. Beckett. An Irishman who wrote in French first and then translated his own words into English. God bless you, Mrs. Stottlemyre. Who? 11th grade literature class, my teacher. Mrs. Stottlemyre. Funny what we remember. So, are you? Beckett? He raised his bushy eyebrows. I am afraid Beckett is dead. Some time ago. Beckett's ghost, then. Did you not pinch yourself a while back there and conclude the evidence of your own corporality exists? Don't you trust your own senses? And if I were mere ectoplasm, what does that make those young beauties over there? I can assure you, Sonny, they're as real as you and me. With a flutter of fingers, he waved to the women. If you're not the ghost, and you're not my father, and not the Irish playwright Beckett, then who are you? You attempt to answer a positive, but avert to the negative. All in good time, bucko. First, there are several more women in your bed. And that's another thing I said. Why are they here? What are they implying with their stories? That somehow I am to blame? The old man laid a fatherly hand upon my shoulder. You are overwrought, my boy. And yet, as I have said, as you've said, there are more women in the bed from whom we haven't yet heard. The very thought of those other creatures nearly drove me to tears.